Hey everyone, it's your girl Amanda the author and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about creative burnout, what it is and how you can fight it. This is a little more of a personal video for me. I just kind of am coming back from this feeling, this creative burnout. Some of you may know I did take a break from my channel and from a lot of my other marketing and things like that in November for about a month, and I'm gonna talk about why, talk about the feelings and the things that I was experiencing, and give you some advice on how to combat it if you are in the same place. Before I get started, if you are an author and you're looking for tips on all aspects of the authoring game, from writing to book marketing, and yes, author self-care, then I'd love it if you can go ahead and subscribe to my channel and kick it with me every Thursday. Also, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about me, what I do, my books, I'll have links in the description for where you can find these on Amazon, where you can join my newsletter, and where you can follow me on my socials, including Instagram and TikTok. So without further ado, let's get started. So I mentioned that I have experienced creative burnout pretty recently. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, then I will get into some classic signs of burnout and some advice at the end on how you can combat that. Before I do any of that, I do want to preface this by saying I'm not a licensed medical professional, therapist, counselor, anything. I am somebody who has experienced creative burnout. I'm somebody who is actively in therapy and I do have anxiety. So this is all based on my experience and research and things like that. This is not to replace any kind of advice from a therapist or medical professional. And so I just wanted to, I guess, put this disclaimer out there so this advice is kind of coming from like an auntie, sister, friend thing. And so I don't want you to use it in place of actual therapy advice. Okay, now that that's out the way, let me get into my experience. So it's important to kind of contextualize all of this with just a couple of things about me. I am somebody who, again, I have anxiety, I struggle with perfectionism, and I am somebody who really likes to work because it's kind of been instilled in me that I should always be doing something. I am somebody who is still, I struggle with feeling a great deal of guilt around resting, around taking time to just do nothing, to just exist. I am somebody who actively has to schedule days off and moments in my life to rest. And so all of that is important to what I'm about to say. As an indie author, I've mentioned this on this channel before, when you're an indie author, you're doing everything. You're responsible for the business of writing, of selling your books and putting your books out there, and also with writing them. And it's a lot. It can be very overwhelming, and especially if you have a full-time job, if you have a partner, if you have a family, if you have kids, if you have a dog, if you got a goldfish, if you got a cat, if you got a house plant even, it's really overwhelming. Add to that being in a panorama for 2 years, and you have a recipe for a lot of prickly negative feelings, a lot of anxiety. So when I took my break in November, it was a reaction to a couple of things. The first of which is I was just kind of feeling like the things that I was doing were not good enough and that I wasn't performing and doing enough. I was feeling like I was constantly in a state of comparison, comparing myself to all of the authors around me that I'm friends with and that I don't know. I remember watching some TikTok videos of authors talking about the things that they do, their productivity, and feeling like I was coming up short. And not just stature-wise, because I'm 4'11", but short, productivity-wise. I was feeling like, wow, they have all these followers on TikTok and that's where my target audience is and I'm not there. I was, ruminating over my book sales. I was ruminating over the book that I was writing and is it going to be good enough? The book that I just finished writing, In the House of Transcendence, it's a mystery, it's a dark fantasy, and it's certainly darker than my Witch Kind series, which if you've read, you might be thinking, how, Sway? But it is. So I was feeling a little bit of an inadequacy of like, how do I write this thing that's a little bit darker and it's a mystery? And do I write mystery? And how do I make it so it's not obvious in the first 5 fucking pages? What do I do? And again, the social aspect. And again, with my newsletter, building that, knowing that that is a great tool to be bringing in sales. And this YouTube channel, you know, I was doing videos, but I wasn't necessarily seeing the reception that I wanted to, and I also wasn't looking forward to filming. You know, quiet as kept, I wasn't looking forward to filming. I wasn't looking forward to doing any of it. I hated it. I was not looking forward to doing it. And I also felt like I wasn't good at it. I started to have feelings of disappearing. I started to think like, if I stopped all of these things tomorrow, nobody would care because I'm not worth anything, because nobody cares about these things that I'm doing. I'm not getting the reception that I feel like I should be getting or that I wish I was getting. And so if I just went away, stopped writing, stopped YouTubing, stopped posting on social, stopped sending my newsletter, nobody would care. And it hurt because we all want to feel valued, especially, you know, when you're putting a creative work out there, you want to feel like people are valuing that. And I was in a mental space where I was feeling like nobody was. And I wasn't able to see the people who were giving good vibes and who were telling me that they liked my work and that I was a hard worker and that they liked my videos and they were really happy for me and the likes and all that. I wasn't able to see that. Again, I was also dealing with applying for jobs and dealing with that rejection and kind of the bit of rejection that comes with when you're an indie author and you're having to put yourself out there. It's a different kind of rejection than when you're querying. Right? If you're indie, you know. And so some of the feelings that I was feeling, I was exhausted all the time. I was so tired that I would sleep 8 hours and still be tired. I started drinking a lot more coffee. And even with that, I would mentally not be able to do the things that I would be able to do before. My productivity slowed down, which only further pissed me off with myself. Because again, I'm somebody who always feels like I need to be doing something. I was in that toxic productivity loophole of output and needing to do something and focusing on the output, focusing on the sales, focusing on the this and that. And so when you're in that mindset, any slippage, any like low performing day, month, whatever, is you feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing enough. I was anxious. I was overwhelmed. My thoughts were consistently moving faster than my body could, especially with chronic pain. That kind of happens quite a bit, but like this was a lot more because I was stressed. The pain was worse because I was sitting more. The pain was worse. All of that. I was dealing with a decrease in patience. I wasn't as patient with myself and with others as I was before. I was constantly looking at the negative, comparing myself. I would meet compliments with negativity. I would meet hopefulness with disdain. Somebody would say, you know, you're a great author, you did this really great, or you look really great in your Halloween costume. And I was like, yeah, but there was this thing that was wrong, and there was that was wrong, and I was just really picking at it. I remember getting in my feelings and thinking like, I don't like anything. I don't like anything that I'm doing. I don't like anything about what I'm doing. I don't like myself. I don't like the shit. I don't like where I'm at. I was close to not being an author anymore and a YouTuber. And it was devastating. And so I took a break and I feel a little bit better and I'm still working through things. And so I want to have this conversation and talk about a lot of these things and feelings for those of you who might be feeling the same way. Maybe you feel like you're drowning and you keep trying to bring your head above water, and with everything that you do, everything that needs to be done as an author, it can be really overwhelming and feel like you never have a chance to take a break. But there's always time to rest. One should always make time for themselves and prioritize your health, physical and mental. And so I'm here to tell you that it is important. You can take a rest, you can take a break, and things will be okay on the other end. So now I'm going to talk about some classic signs of burnout in case my rambling about my experience was that a ramble and not a kind of clear, cohesive rundown of feelings. So here are some classic signs of burnout. Again, this is based on my experience and some research that I have done. So here we are. Okay, so the first thing is an increase in negative thoughts, right? I mentioned that this is one of the things that I was feeling. An increase in jealousy, comparing oneself to other authors, getting filled with rage, seeing other people's success, an increase in exhaustion, and I mean mental and physical. Feeling so tired mentally and or physically that the amount of productivity becomes less and less. So even if you start out a day saying, I want to accomplish these 5 things, you usually will accomplish 2 or 3. And that kind of being the trend where because you're so tired mentally and physically, you kind of don't have as much bandwidth to do the things that you want to accomplish. And that kind of becomes a feedback loop, because that also further increases your negative thoughts and your critical thoughts and your the toxic productivity of it all. So an increase in critical thoughts, not just a negative view on life, but being critical with yourself. So thoughts like, I'm not working hard enough. I'm not successful because I'm not doing enough. And that goes hand in hand with, again, with the decrease in productivity, because you're so exhausted, you are then critical of yourself for not being able to do the things that you feel like you should do. And all of that also leads to a decrease in creative flow. So not just a productivity, but the creativity that you come to the page with is because you're exhausted, because you have all this happening, it's kind of like a battle raging in your mind. You're not as creative. A decrease in patience, decrease in contentment, kind of also an inability to see the bright side and to redirect your thoughts. Also, I would say it's harder to be emotionally intelligent in these moments. So emotionally intelligent is kind of understanding exactly what you're feeling. It can lead to kind of an inability to have that emotional intelligence that maybe you have or you've built up. Again, as somebody who's been in therapy, that's definitely something that I have worked on. As I worked through these things in therapy, I've really been able to identify more often than not the feeling and why. It might take a little bit of time and just me sitting with myself until I'm able to do that. But when I was in this space of creative burnout, I couldn't do that. I didn't know why I was feeling the things that I was feeling. Also dreading any kind of work, dreading sitting down and working on my 9 to 5, dreading doing dishes. I mean, like, nobody wants to do the dishes, but doing anything in my life, I would dread. Dreading writing, dreading posting on social, working my newsletter, marketing, even dreading like watching a YouTube video to learn. I was starting to feel that. A whole lot of irritation, getting really irritable easily. Distraction is another thing. You know, we joke about procrastination as authors, but I think there's a healthy and fun amount of like, haha, procrastination. But I think that when you're in this burnout phase, you are easily distracted and you kind of start to seek out distractions. Maybe you're spending more time on social, you're watching TV more, you're not doing the things that you need to do. Sense of apathy. So that place of like, ugh, I could do all of these things and nothing's gonna work. It doesn't matter how hard I try, it doesn't matter how hard I work. Why fight it? Why do anything? Nobody cares. It's not gonna get better. And you know, finally kind of like a sense of detachment, feeling like you're isolated or you're alone and you are just disconnected from other people in your field, other people in your life. I was feeling, again, all of these things, and that's why I took a break. If you are feeling any of these, you could be experiencing creative burnout. And so now I'm gonna talk to you about some of the things that I did that helped me and some things that might help you. Before you can really combat burnout, you have to realize that that's what it is. And you can't do that if you're constantly in motion. So my first piece of advice is to sit with yourself and really just take a moment to examine your mental, your physical, all of it, and think about what it is you're feeling. And then you can start to decide how to heal after that. The second thing I did was I decided to take a break. It's very different when you're experiencing burnout at your 9 to 5 or in your personal life, right? Like if you're a parent and you have kids and you're kind of overwhelmed with that. So I understand that taking a break from indie authorship is a little bit easier than if you were experiencing it in, let's say, other parts of your life. But if you're experiencing a burnout in the creative area of your life, your authorship and your writing, the best thing that you can do, that I did for myself, and so my advice would be to take a break. It can be for a day, it can be for a week, it can be for a month, but I think that you really need to allow yourself time to heal and refill your creative cup, because you can't pour from an empty cup. I would also take time to, when you're taking a break, to take stock of all the things that you are doing. It's important to look at all of the commitments that you're making and see if they are making sense for you and if they're overwhelming you or if they don't. Also, the same thing with your marketing. It's important to remember when it comes to your book marketing that you don't have to be everywhere. You don't have to be on every social platform. It's just the platforms that you are on, you should be consistent. And if that's all you can handle, that's what you can handle. It's important to be consistent instead of trying to spread yourself thin to multiple platforms. Another thing I did is I re-examined my newsletter. I was, for a time, trying to do it every week, and I realized that I just didn't have the bandwidth to do a weekly newsletter. So I scaled it back to twice a month, and so far that's worked for me. Another thing that I did is I took time to look at my deadlines and I relaxed them. The things that I didn't need to do right away, I didn't. I think that when you are doing a business, when you have a business, and when you are anxious or when you're a perfectionist or when you're any of those things, there can be an inclination to do things as quickly as possible and do and perform and to finish this, knock that out, do da-da-da. And in this capitalistic society, it can be really difficult to get away from that, right? But I think that it's important to be kind to yourself and relax the deadlines that you have if you're able to. You know, if you're writing your book and you need more time, do it. Another thing I did was really focus on self-care. And I don't mean like kind of the maintenance or performative things of going and getting my nails done or going to a spa day. I really thought about the things that make me feel replenished, and I focused on those. I love reading. I think most authors do. So I started reading more. I started listening to more audiobooks. I started listening to music a lot more, which I think is important. I also really made it a point to remind myself when I took a day just to lay and watch TV or read, I deserved the rest and that I needed it, because that's what my body and my mind were telling me I needed, was rest. And so I really think it's important when it comes to focusing on your self-care to not just do things that you feel are kind of told you that are self-care, to really listen to what it is your body and your mind needs. Another thing I would suggest, if you are in this mode, if you aren't in therapy already, I would suggest seeking therapy. I think it can definitely help work through these feelings, especially if you are somebody who's never been in therapy before. And then finally, when you do get back to your life before, when you kind of come back from your break, I would start doing things slowly. I would not just jump in both feet first, because that could lead you right back to where you were before you took your break. So that's it today. I hope that you enjoyed this video, or maybe enjoyed is not the right word. I hope you found this video helpful. It's been difficult for me to be personal as I have been in this video, but I think that it's important, and I pride myself on being transparent. I want to be transparent and help other authors. I really wish that I had discovered this type of video or this type of candid conversation before I started my author journey, or sooner in my author journey. So, that's something that I want to do in helping other authors as they move along. And if you have any other self-care type videos that you'd like me to talk about, or topics you'd like to explore, even not related to self-care but related to authoring, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope that you are able to move forth with a positive spirit and have a mindset of abundance. I will talk to you later. Bye.